Yassas. What happens when you take two vibrant brothers that are descendants from the Greeks in Constantinople, embracing their American roots, and then ask them to serve up rich tales of traditions, cuisine, childhood memories, and a hearty dose of humor? You're about to find out. This is Baklavine Banter, your passport to all things Greek.
Recorded live from the Gallico Burico studios, this is Baklava and Banter. I am Petraki, and you
I'm
are.
Soto.
And Happy New Year's, everybody, and welcome to our new season of Baklava and Banter. Hope everybody out there had a great Christmas, a great New Year's celebration. And I have to say, the new year is already bringing changes. And what exactly do I mean by that? Well, we've all known in the past how over the last probably 15 years or so, the economy in Greece has been pretty crappy. You know, we've all seen stories that Greece has taken a lot of hits politically in the European community, especially when they came onto the euro and they basically lied of their application to get in. And a lot of the locals there in Greece were like, "Why did we do this? We just should have stayed on the drachma and shouldn't have gone into the euro." But things are changing here in Greece. Back in 2008, 2009, when we saw the economic downturn on a global scale, you know, what a lot of people don't, what people in Greece realize, but other people may have not realized, that they had 33% unemployment in Greece.
Yeah.
Think about that, you know? So for a country that had, this is a high estimate, 11 million people, 3.3 million people were out of jobs then. That's a lot of freaking people.
Right.
But last few years, they made their economic changes there internally, and 10 days ago, on the 3rd of January, Economist magazine, are you familiar with the Economist magazine?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just rated Greece as the top performing economy in 2023.
It's crazy.
So I'm like, okay. So what exactly does this mean in Greece? Well, as the people who know, who've traveled to Greece, you have the old Hellenic airport, which was, in the center of Athens there, which shut down in 2001. And people have been going back and forth on what they're going to do with this. Well, how times are changing. And I think this economic downturn, because their credit rating has changed and is just underneath where you would want to invest into a country. Right after Christmas, it was announced that Hard Rock casinos, yes, the same Hard Rock casinos that you can find in Las Vegas and down in Florida and in Atlantic City, just announced that they are building a brand new casino on that property. Now, people are going to say, interesting. I said interesting. But what does that mean? It means that they're going to bring 3,000 construction jobs. And then when it's done, they're going to employ 3,000 employees to run the casino. Not only is it going to be a casino, it's going to be a hotel and convention center, 1,100 guest rooms, which is a lot. They're also going to have a theater with 3,000 seats and 4,000 and room for 4,000 people for standing room, where you're going to bring concert. So economically, they just broke numbers. I just saw today they broke numbers with the amount of tourists that came into Greece in 2023.
Right.
I think a lot of this is, like I said, their own changes that they made within the country. But with that many tourists, and especially if Hard Rock uses its its influence and brings in American bands in, or popular bands in, that concerts, and you bring the tourists, you have conventions there. This could be very successful. I think, this brings tourism. Everybody talks about tourism being one of the biggest uh, things economically that Greece has. This could be really huge for them, and I'm at the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm kind of proud of them right now that they will turn this. I hope. I'm going to tell you why I'm a little bit I'm very optimistic, 95%. But the other 5% of me thinks back to the 2004 Olympics and how the country almost went bankrupt, literally went bankrupt, and how all those Olympic sites now are like in debacles. They're like these ancient. They look worse than the actual sites of antiquity. I'll say that much. And they're
Yeah.
only 20 years old. But great, I'm proud for Greece. I'm proud for the people there that if they're able to turn their things around economically in the next 2 years, that bigger and better things. And if other countries, whether it's within the EU or and abroad, decide to uh, start branching out into Greece and start bringing more work in, I think Greece is going to be a powerhouse, has the potential to be a powerhouse in the EU. So much so that, they can give them the big, you know, the Germanys of the world, they give them the big, the little mungias, baha, right into their face right there. But that's funny. I know it's funny. You can laugh. But
They're still expect to receive something like 55 billion euros from the EU um, structural and recovery plans through
right,
2027, on
right,
top of tourism, on top of
right.
investment and domestic demand. So yeah, I think you're right. If you combine those,
Yeah, I mean the
um,
casino is supposed to be open by 2027. Now that's only 3 years away. And now, if you know anything, I don't think Greece is known for its expedited building growth.
yeah,
Like, something tells me that if they hit the target, great. But we'll just have to see what the next 3 years hold for them.
it's
Um,
also it's also I saw their first budget in 13 years that has been given investor grade
yeah, yeah,
by the investment community.
yeah. It's really impressive. Now,
Yeah.
my only thing is, how we talk about the Greekish words,
Hmm.
blackjack.
Yeah.
You're sitting at the you're sitting at the craps table. Mama needs a pandoflaps. Throws the dice.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Anyways. But yeah, so congratulations to Greece and to the Greek community in Greece. It seems you guys are finally, seems like you're turning the corner. Uh but let me just shift gears here, and um 2 days after Christmas, uh there was some tragic news in Greece, and there was an Air Force pilot, 40-year-old major, um, who was flying a training mission, um, and his plane crashed. His name is Major Epaminondas Kosteas, and I know I butchered that, even though I practiced it like 20 times. But
Epaminondas. Yeah, that's correct.
what's that? Yeah, did I
Epaminondas. You're
say
right.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he was flying a T2 aircraft, which is a trainer, it's a Buckeye. And I think I told you this before. It kind of, I don't know, frustrates me because, even here in the US, we use T-38s as trainers. But I'm thinking, hey, Greece, look, this plane was built, it's almost 70 years old. He was going to do this training, then he was going to go on leave. And then the Greek Air Force came out and said, well, we were going to withdraw this aircraft from service. And I'm like, I think it's unfortunately what happened. And maybe they'll, it's only 3 weeks now that it's happened, but, or condolences go out to him, to his family, and hopefully that um, the Air Force in Greece can be able to resolve any issues that happen here to save any other lives that could potentially be lost, especially when it's training. Um, you know, these things happen. It's unfortunate that they happen, but like I said, our deepest condolences go out to the family. Um, so yeah. So what do you got next?
Well, I was thinking maybe maybe it's time that we haven't done a, Greek invention segment, that
Okay.
we do one of those, because I have an interesting one for you today.
Okay.
Not that they're not all interesting, but I think this is interesting. So, um, we all know, the world knows, that Greece was the origins, the birthplace of democracy in Athens around the 5th century BCE. We know about the magnificent architecture and contributions to philosophy and science, but and obviously now their economy. But today I'm going to take you to the islands, and specifically the island of Chios, and its remarkable connection to an ancient form of chewing gum. This almost sounds like a Greek Wrigley's commercial. Um, so, from a geographic perspective, Chios is the fifth largest Greek island. It's about 325 square miles. It's located in the North Aegean Sea, about 5 miles off the coast of Turkey. If you look on a map, there's actually a channel that separates the island and basically what is Asia Minor. Um, it too has
Wait,
a rich,
so this is a
yeah,
Greek island, right?
yes, it's a Greek island. Yeah, it's the fifth largest of the Greek islands, as a matter of fact.
And it's 5 miles off the coast of Turkey?
Correct. Yeah, it's basically, if you look at a map, it's the island. There's a channel, and then it's basically what is Asia Minor, the continent. Um,
Okay.
Basically
So
Turkey.
okay, never mind. I'm just saying because the international line is usually 12 miles, and that's why this must be the set of islands that Greece won during the wars that Turkey wants back. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no worries. So it too, the other thing is, it also has a rich history. It was actually one of the first ancient states that embraced democracy, much like Athens early on. Um, but today we're not going to talk about the political history. Instead, we're going to head to the southern part of Chios, and that's called uh, uh, Mastiko, which means mastic villages, where there's something that truly special grows there, and that's the mastic tree. Now, these unique trees, they basically secrete a resin that's often referred to as the tears of Chios. And this resin, which is known as mastic, has a history that dates back at least 2,500 years to Greek antiquity. And so, what's so special about this mastic? Well, the Greeks have harvested these resin droplets and processed them in basically a rudimentary fashion to create a type of chewing gum. Um, Basically, even ancient doctors like Hippocrates recommended the mastic for various purposes, including preventative digestive problems, warding off colds, and even freshening the breath. And so, mastic's significance, it was a valuable commodity during different times, different periods of history. Under the Byzantine Empire rule, it became the emperor's monopoly, and to the Ottoman Empire, it was so precious that stealing mastic was punishable by execution. So basically, leave my chewing gum alone. Um, During the same Ottoman rule, it was so highly prized that even during the Chios massacre of 1812, which I'm not going to go into, but please feel free to look it up, significant event, the people of Mastikos were spared in order to provide mastic to the Sultan and his harem. In Turkish, the name Sakizadasi is basically their name for the island of Chios, which means gum island, not to be confused with Fantasy Island. Um, So basically, in order to protect these villages, and as of 2018, there were 24 villages within this province, this southern part of Chios. They basically created high walls, no street level doors, and you could only enter into these villages by using ladders to ensure the safety of precious resources. So fast forward, mastic still has a strong connection to Greek culture. Even though this is younger in terms of its creation, there's a digestive liquor known as mastika, which is actually made from grapes, but it's seasoned with mastic, and it was known as a Greek elixir up until about the French Revolution. And today, it's used. Mastic or mastika is used from everything from making desserts. We put it in Greek shureki, vasilopita. It goes into Turkish delights. It's still used as a breath freshener. And the interesting use I found was they put it in a specific type of varnish that's used to protect and preserve photographic negatives. So there you have it. Chios, mastic, mastica, an early form of chewing gum. Pretty neat.
So, if there's bears on the island, are they then called? Is that where gummy bears originated from?
I don't know. I think you'd have to argue with
That is such.
the
That
Germans
is
for
such
that,
like
but
a. That's. I feel like I just made like a Stephen Wright joke, right?
that's right. That's right.
So
But
yeah, it's funny because these trees. There's a lot of places these trees grow. It's not
yeah,
just on
yeah, yeah,
Chios,
yeah, yeah,
but it's the only place that the resin that it secretes the resin, which is really which leads me to believe that what on the island is making it excrete this resin.
Well, they said it's a combination of volcanic ash, the
Hmm.
microclimate, and so forth. It's actually very difficult to grow. I didn't mention this, but we know we buy it in quantities because we put in chureki and so forth, and even a little bottle of it, it's not
It's
cheap
not cheap. Yeah,
because basically
yeah,
they let the resin dry, it drops to the ground, they cultivate it from the ground, they wash it, and then they basically by hand pick through any impurities and so forth before it's processed. So it's a very tedious process.
yeah.
And it's funny when you chew it, just like if you don't want to put too much in your desserts because it becomes bitter. But I remember growing up a couple times we chewed it. It was initially a little bitter, but then it almost mellows out, and it's kind of a pine cedar type of
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
flavor.
When you know the flavor, you
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah.
when it's in something, you know.
Right,
And the
right.
funny thing is, like when mom was over for Christmas and she made the vasilopitas,
Yeah,
she brought her little baggie of it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it was basically like, just like little crystals,
Right, exactly.
like almost like yellowish diamonds, And she's like, "Oh, uh, you have to smash it." I said, "What do you mean smash it?" She's like, "Oh, just put it on the counter." So she told, like, I took out a meat tenderizer
Yeah,
and just sat there and just banged it out to make,
yeah,
to break it down to make it into powder. So she puts it in.
yeah.
But it's one of those things. It's one of those flavors that it's what makes like chureki to me. Do you
Between
know what
that
I'm?
and
You know what I'm saying?
between that and the machlep,
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
just it's the taste. Like
yeah,
if you
yeah,
don't put those in, it's like, oh, this is like it's just bread. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's very it distinguishes the taste, which leads me to believe like everything, like anything else. Like who was the first? Was it like planned to put it in there when they started? When Vasilopitas were being made, or one is it one of those? Oh, I put the wrong thing in there,
Yeah,
and then they cook it, and you're like, oh, that was
yeah.
because even in
I
you were telling me even in the Chela Mendes cookbook, they have anise instead of.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting in his Vasilopita recipe that he didn't have mastika in there.
Yeah.
Um, don't they? I seem to recall maybe it was in Greece that we got this from, but you can get basically it's almost like chiclets that's sold as chewing gum. That's called mastic chewing gum
Well, I think what
in
it
a
is
finished
I think
form. Yeah,
yeah, it's like like you said, like chiclets.
yeah,
And it's almost like they added a little bit to the batch,
right, right, right,
just put
exactly.
it in there. I don't know if they excreted the oils from the resin itself and
Yeah,
put it in there, but yeah, I remember having that. But then, if memory serves me right, it wasn't necessarily like it was like when as a kid, you go to the little gumball machines, you put a penny in, and you got about 30 seconds of flavor and then there was nothing.
yeah, that
It
was
was
it.
pretty much the same thing. You're sitting there trying to chew everything, like juicy fruit,
Yeah,
or or the fruit stripe.
yeah,
You know what I'm talking about? You remember
yeah,
fruit
yeah. Oh
stripe?
yeah.
So, 30 seconds of pleasure and then you're like spitting it out, and then you're like, bah, it's like
I
terrible.
used to know somebody that used to chew chewing gum that way. Like they would put a piece in their mouth. I forgot what kind it
Yeah.
was. They would chew it for, you know, X amount of time, spit it out and put a fresh piece in. It's like but anyway.
The funny thing is, talking about chewing gum. I'm trying to think which one it is. Is it Dentine or Trident? There's one of them that you can actually eat it with the wrapper, and the wrapper melts in your mouth.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I've done it. I just don't remember which one it is. And you're chewing in the first few, like 15, 20 seconds
Yeah.
are kind of like awkward because you're like chewing on paper. But then as it breaks down, it melts.
Really?
Yeah. Here, you gotta look it up.
Yeah. Fruit stripe.
Uh, is it fruit stripe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. The wrappers are edible too.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, looks like I'm getting some fruit stripe.
Listen, fruit stripe is one of those things. It's like it has its own flavor. When you put that piece in your mouth, you're gonna be 6 years old again. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
waiting in line.
Created in the
So
early 60s. I think that's pretty neat.
that's why it has the Partridge Family colors to it.
Yeah.
It
That
is one
is
of
neat.
those things. It used to be at every end cap at the checkout counter, and now if you find it's like you can order online. You go to how they have those old time
Yeah.
candy shops where you get your pop rocks with your bottle caps
Right,
and
right.
every other candy that you can get in there. You can typically find them there.
Right.
So I was telling you, when mom was here, so we went to we she took me to this new, uh it was new for me, Mediterranean-esque
Yeah.
Turkish grocery store in Clifton. Now, I know people are going to be like, why are we talking about the Turks? Because when it comes to the culinary world, we have more similarities than we do uh, differences.
Differences. Yeah.
So we take this to the name of the store is Istanbul.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, for those of you from the New York City metropolitan area, the town of Patterson has the largest concentration of Turks in the United States. So there was a lot of Turkish Mediterranean marketplaces. So we go into this, what used to be an old silk warehouse.
Hmm.
Okay. Uh, and I'm like, you walk in there, I'm not going to lie to you. It's a beautiful little store. Not fancy at all, but has everything, a beautiful butcher section. You can get your sujukia, your basturma. They
Yeah.
have all your cheeses there. Um, but what really kind of blew my mind was the tea selection.
Oh my God. Yeah, I didn't know that.
So you go in there and they have brands that we know like Lipton,
Right.
but they're Lipton Turkish tea in a Lipton bag. Okay.
Yeah.
But then they have like 40 different loose tea um, varieties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, then, and so I already had a bag, like I had a bag of Turkish tea already. So I'm like, all right, it's good for the future. So this is a couple days. This is right after Christmas. So mom goes home. So I'm like, oh, so Chris has never been to an H Mart. You familiar with H Mart?
Yeah.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, H Mart is uh an Asian marketplace. And not just Chinese, Japanese, all of Asia. Vietnam, Cambodia, they have a little bit of everything. But they have near North Bergen, I think it's Richfield, they have like Walmart, they have a super center.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So she's never been. I said, all right, let's go. So I said, if we're gonna go, we have to go to the super center.
Right.
So we go to the super center. So it's kind of funny because you walk in and there's actual like you walk into the supermarkets, but there's little like boutique stores within the supermarket before you actually go into the supermarket. So we walk in, and as you walk in, you come into the produce section. It's like everything grown from between here and Hanoi
Right.
is there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
like stuff you're not going to see at your regular Safeway, Kruger, ShopRite. You're not going to see this stuff. So I'm like, pretty interesting, right? So we're walking through now. You know how we used to go? We used to go to Korean barbecue.
Right.
So in the middle, right as you exit the produce section, there's a little transitional section there, and it's like this, almost like how you go to the mall and they have the little what do they call those? Like not a kiosk, but like a kiosk area, right?
Hmm.
You know how you go to Costco's and they have like a little thing where they do samples? A little bigger by that, U-shaped, where they're actually selling marinated meat like we have at Korean barbecue,
Wow.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm like, gotta buy some. It's already marinated, so we have to buy some. But then you go to the meat section, it's the Korean short ribs. That's what they are. Um, and then you go to the meat section there, and then you go and they have whatever you can imagine. They have everything from, they sell everything from head to toe, if you know
Right.
what I'm saying. You can, buy chicken feet, lamb's feet, everything you can imagine. Everything that comes out of the animal is there.
Right.
Then you walk into the fish section, and it's like it's just the mate. Like, I don't know where all this fish came from, but there's a lot of fish in this place. Okay,
Yeah.
remember when we used to go when we used before ethnic markets were a place, and mom would take us into Manhattan to go grocery shopping.
Oh yeah.
So we used to hit the seafood place, right? And we
Right.
were in Ninth Avenue in Manhattan. So what's Hell's Kitchen,
Right.
and there was the seafood place, and the next door was the Greek butcher where we would get everything, or lamb's heads and all that stuff. Imagine that, the fish store on crack. Okay, it was just like ridiculous. So then we walked around, and they have a home goods section, and I call it a home goods section because it's an Asian home goods.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
you can buy pillows, you can buy anything you can imagine for the house. Like little panda, salt shakers. Anything that's Asian esque. So we're walking through, and I see this little glass little pot, okay?
Okay.
And I look at it, and it's all written in, I think it's Chinese, or it's an Asian language.
Okay.
So I open up the box and I look at this thing. So it's an Asian tea, like, brewer.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, in the center of it, you open it up, and it looks like a small coffee pot. It's like for single serve. In the middle, you take it out. There's a little strainer. You put your tea leaves in there.
Okay.
You pour your hot water. Let it sit for a little bit, and then enjoy it. Right?
Right.
I'm like, how much is this thing? I'm like, it's like $5. I said, I need to get one of these.
Okay.
Okay. So I bring it home, and I'm like, where's that Turkish tea? Okay.
Hmm.
So first, I wasn't I haven't been properly schooled in the proper mixture of water to tea leaves.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, oh, so I'm going to fill this thing halfway with tea. And I have, those electric kettles,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
boil some water, put it up.
Yeah.
Mistake. Huge mistake.
What happened?
Huge. I put too much tea in it. This thing looked more like coffee than it looked like tea. Right.
Oh
And
no.
I'm like, I'm not gonna let it go to waste, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's there's hair underneath my feet from drinking this thing. Okay. So then I finally figured out I don't need tablespoons of tea in this. I need just like a teaspoon and a half of tea, and then add the water. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you one of these things.
All
Okay,
right.
and I'm gonna ship you some. This thing is phenomenal.
It's
Like,
interesting you said that because I'm not really a tea drinker. I drink coffee
yeah,
throughout the day,
yeah.
but uh, but the tea that we had for breakfast growing up, because we didn't have coffee. Remember when we had coffee when we had
Mhm.
people over the house?
Yeah.
Um, and how strong it was, which you don't realize.
Well, I think at the time, mom was. You remember I think mom was using like 7 tea bags in a thing, but
Well,
um,
it was a double boiler setup. But what I was going to say
yeah,
was one of the ways that I like tea, and I made some the other day. I just made a black tea, which is basically what
yeah,
those teas are. I mean, they have flavored ones, apple and things like that. I made it because I made just the other day. I made chureki.
yeah.
I made like 2 loaves,
Oh,
and
to
I
dip,
like
you got to dip it. You got
you
something
got
to
to
dip it
dip.
in.
I went through half
Yeah,
a loaf.
yeah.
Just dipping it into. You got to make sure it doesn't. You got to dip it just long enough so it doesn't break apart. Because then you got to get a
Of
spoon
course.
in there. But anyway,
Yeah.
my point is that that tea, like that tea that we grew up with, when you make a good concoction,
Oh
that's some
yeah.
good stuff.
Let me tell you something. So now that I have that like down to a science now.
Yeah,
So this was. I think we went. mm, I got this thing like December 30th, so almost like 2 weeks ago,
yeah.
and I gotta tell you, man, like I so the bag of Turkish tea that I had was brand new, unopened. I'm halfway through this bag, and
And that's loose,
cause
right?
it's loose, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not loose tea. Yeah,
And then she comes to me one day and she's like, "Oh," she goes, I have all these like Asian teas." I'm like, okay. She has like white tea and green teas. What I didn't realize, because again, I'm not like, I
yeah.
know tea how we know tea. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So I guess Chinese tea or Asian tea is like almost like the flowers,
Yeah,
like, right? Or they look like little pearls.
yeah,
So I'm like, okay, like I'll try. One of them was called like dragon beads or something like that. It's called, right?
yeah.
So I'm like, again, what happens is you once you put the water, you let it sit and they open up.
Yes.
It's kind of
Right.
funky, right?
Yeah,
And it's a white tea,
yeah.
but I'm like, okay, it tasted. All right, I'll say this: have you ever had green tea ice cream?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what makes a good green tea ice cream?
The green tea.
That when you no, yeah, genius. But when you sit there and you eat it and there's like a grittiness to it and
Right.
it's very earthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, and when it's like that, I can't. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I'm eating dirt, but I can't get enough of it. And I just shovel it in, you know. And this is how this tasted a little bit. And I'm like, oh, it's very earthy, but I'm like, I need another cup of this stuff,
Plus some of
And
those
it's just what's that?
those teas like the white tea,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
even the green tea, the amount of the temperature of the water and how long you steep it is very different from.
Exactly. And in the back of this, it gave specific the container that it comes in, because it came in this can that she gave in the back of it, it's a generic um grid
Yeah.
that lists all the teas and its steeping time.
Yeah.
Some of them it's 2 minutes,
Yeah.
some of them are like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, like whatever, but so the moral of the story is use Chinese technology to make Turkish tea, and it's pretty damn good. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
between
good
that
stuff.
and making the Greek coffee or the Turkish coffee.
Which I have a whole container
Yeah.
of coffee that I have to make. I ended up ordering the um, the Greek
Is it the one that starts with a V?
Nescafe coffee. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Oh, the
I
Nesca,
ordered
the
the
Nesca.
Nescafe coffee for the frappe,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is really good. But I also have the yeah, it's a brown can of coffee. What I thought about getting is getting a hand mill like we had grown up that Papu used to use, where you could put
More the coffee.
regular coffee in there and make your own Turkish
Yeah,
coffee.
you could, but listen,
Yeah,
if you get a good coffee maker, it'll grind. It has like settings for like 9 different types of grinds.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
just do
yeah.
that. I mean that. Now that you say that, it's just like uh, old world technology that still works.
I wonder what would happen because with the Nespresso pods you can reuse
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
I wonder what would happen if you pack. I guess you'd have to use an espresso capsule because it has the barcodes on the bottom for how much pressure to use. I wonder what would happen if you put Greek Turkish coffee in there. It's probably not going to come out the same, obviously, and you can't really.
I don't think those were meant to be
Yeah,
made like that. I think you'd get a lot of clumping.
yeah. Well, because because espresso is put under pressure, Greek
Yeah.
Turkish coffee is not. You got to let it kind of
No,
boil.
it's kind of loosey goosey in there,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing that. But then, if you do it like that, there's no real grinds to read at the end of the day. So
yeah.
you
You
can't
have to be able.
necessarily flip it over and be like, oh, what does it say? Let me see. It says you messed it up. That's what it's gonna say, something like that.
Yeah,
But hey, just a quick note I want to make to everybody. So, Greek Easter this year, 2024, is gonna be, I believe, 5 weeks after
yeah,
the regular American Easter, and it's gonna be on Cinco de Mayo this year. So while you're roasting your lamb in your backyard, don't forget to have a little tequila while you say,
is it really the same day as Cinco de Mayo?
yeah, it's on Cinco de Mayo. It
Wow.
happens every so often. Last time it was on Cinco de Mayo, was 2012.
Yeah,
So I remember I was in DC for the cherry blossoms in 2012, and I went to Jose Andres's restaurant in DC,
yeah.
and there they had a thing on the table that said, "Hey, exactly this. Come celebrate Cinco de Mayo with a little lamb."
Oh, that's funny.
So I thought it was very, very good marketing there that they did that. But yeah, May 5th, you know, and here's the kicker now. Here's the kicker. You got, and we know this growing up that you have to get your Easter candy the day after Easter if you're Greek. Because remember growing up, we'd have these half eaten, half broken,
Yeah.
Easter candies. Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. The rabbit
Easter
would have
Bunny
no
must have
ears.
dropped it. What's that?
The rabbit would have no ears.
Yeah. Well, it was a tragic story. But
Yeah.
but just a quick note as we're coming up, we're pushing up against the time here. Um, like we mentioned before, 2024, we will be going to the Greek festivals around the country. What I didn't realize is how soon festival season starts.
Yeah.
In my feed the other day, I think it's end of February, Greek festival, Io Dimitrios in Fort Lauderdale. And
Wow.
I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like, what's that?
based on the weather we're having, you can only probably do it in Fort Lauderdale.
Listen, it's 50 degrees here in the New York City area. So,
Yeah.
but we had snow the other day, but within 48 hours, we had the snow rainstorm come through and wiped it all out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the type of weather I'm looking forward to. But yeah, we're gonna do the Greek festivals we know we're gonna do are the St. Andrews in Randolph, New Jersey. We're gonna do what is it? St. Nicholas, is it? In Clifton? Hope I didn't mess that up. I'm sure it's St. Nicholas. Or is it
St.
St.
George's is in
Demetrius?
Clifton.
St. George's, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get such hate mail for this now. St. George's
In
in
Clifton.
Clifton, we're gonna do that one. We're looking forward in October to hopefully do the Los Angeles Greek festival. It's the largest Greek festival. And we're gonna try to get down to Tarpon Springs down in Florida and do that Greek festival. And hopefully do some live reporting from there. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us again. We hope your year is fantastic. I hope you continue to support us. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to us. The links to our social media are below. So if you have any ideas for the show, feel free to write us. You can email us or send us a message to our Instagram or Facebook accounts. We'll answer anybody and everybody who decides to write to us. Um, so, with that being said, until next time, I am Petraki.
And I'm Soto.
Take care.
Yasas.